Data shows that most of the price increases we've seen were expected and are expected to be temporary.
Is there a risk of inflation? I think there's a small risk, and I think it's manageable.
Most economic analysts believe that it will have a temporary or transitory impact.
When are you guys going to admit that you were wrong about inflation?
No easy questions today, huh?
Well, temporary, transitory, manageable, all words the White House used to downplay the inflation threat as the cost of living began to climb 1 year ago. 1 year later, gas prices have doubled, and the administration is on an apology tour, trying to convince Americans that the economy is not as bad as we think it is. Here's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on CNN last week.
Was it a mistake, Madam Secretary, to downplay this inflation risk? Did that contribute to the problems we're all seeing right now?
Well, look, I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take. As I mentioned, there have been unanticipated and large shocks to the economy that have boosted energy and food prices and supply bottlenecks that have affected our economy badly that I at the time didn't fully understand, but we recognize that now.
My next guest will grill Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen this Tuesday when she appears before the Senate Finance Committee. Wyoming Senator John Barrasso is the third-ranking Senate Republican. He joins me right now. Senator, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. You're about to question Janet Yellen. What are you expecting to ask her?
Well, first, the president's come out with his plan to fight inflation. It's not a plan. It's an embarrassment. If a high school kid turned that in as an economics paper, they'd get a D-. But for a president to say that at the time of record high inflation for prices, for gas, for groceries, he deserves an F because it's full of finger pointing, false accusations. And Maria, he takes no responsibility for his economic malpractice, because that's what this is. He's missed the diagnosis for over a year, and the American people have been suffering. And we've been suffering because he refuses to allow us to use the energy we have right here in America. He's so beholden to the climate elitist. And look, even the Washington Post, their Pinocchio people gave him 4 Pinocchios for lying to the American people about his economic plans.
Yeah, I mean, we have the op-eds, the tear sheets of these op-eds. He's been on this tour this week trying to tell the American people that he's in charge. But that op-ed on inflation didn't give us any solutions. So what's the answer?
No. Yeah. Well, those are the points I want to get into with Janet Yellen. Number one is, why aren't we producing more American energy? That seems to be a clear-cut solution. And number two is, how can you believe that raising taxes is going to help? That's the cornerstone of their economic policy. I mean, that makes no sense to the American people when they can't afford food or groceries to be faced with increasing taxes. That's not the solution. But you're right. The president has his cabinet members out traveling the country saying, hey, it's not all that bad. The American people are paying $4.75 for gas. They understand they're going to believe their own 2 eyes, which is their wallets, which are empty, and their savings are shrinking.
But, Senator, is it intentional? We're going to take a short break. I want to ask you if the administration is purposely driving up energy costs to ram through a climate agenda.
They are.
And why is Biden planning a trip to Saudi Arabia? He hasn't even been to Ukraine. He hasn't been to the southern border. You just got back from Kyiv, where you met with President Zelensky. We are going to talk about that right after this. Stay with us.
What we want to do is to make sure that everyday citizens have access, for example, can afford an electric vehicle where you wouldn't have to worry about the price of gasoline. That we're not at that place yet.
So that's the plan. Fed up with skyrocketing gasoline prices? Just get an electric vehicle. At least that's the solution. Biden's Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm was peddling last week. Gasoline prices are racing toward $5 a gallon nationwide. They are above $8 in California. I'm back with Wyoming Senator John Barrasso. He's the ranking member of the Senate Energy Committee. Senator, your state is an energy state. Talk to us about how this president can fix things sooner rather than later.
We need to use American energy. We have it in the ground. He won't let us get it out. But I think Joe Biden actually wants high gasoline prices so he can force people into electric vehicles. Remember, as a candidate, he said he absolutely guarantees he will eliminate fossil fuels. And just this week in Wyoming, the president sided with environmental extremists going after 2,000 oil and gas leases in Wyoming that were granted from 2015 to 2020. He wasn't even president then. This is going to cost more American jobs, and it's going to cost people all across the country more in terms of high costs. Look, this is unmistakable evidence right now that the president, when he says, oh, I'm doing, quote, everything possible, close quote, to lower the cost of energy, is flat out lying to the American people, and there is no other way to say it, Maria.
Well, I mean, it's really incredible when you look at what has taken place here. And now you've got leaders in corporate America saying that we are about to see a massive collapse in this economy. Jamie Dimon last week, the CEO of the nation's largest bank, said that we are going to see an economic hurricane and we better brace ourselves. He said that the bank is going to be much more conservative with lending. And, you know, people need a loan. They're not going to get it from J.P. Morgan in some cases. And then you've got Elon Musk saying we've got to cut staff by 10%. He has a, quote, super bad feeling about the economy.
And 3/4 of Americans believe the economy is heading worse than it is right now. And they lay it at the feet of the policies of this administration, the massive government spending, the unnecessary so-called stimulus package of $2 trillion when Joe Biden came into office. And, Maria, their solution is more of the same. They're trying to convince Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, to spend more money and raise taxes at the same time. That's the cornerstone of their economic plan, which is why their plan has failed. American people cannot afford more taxes when they can't even afford to put food on the table. And the expenses today, just to maintain where they were a year ago, is $5,000 a year more today than it was last year. We have the energy in the ground. We need to use it. Once again, Joe Biden is too slow to respond to the needs of the American people.
Well, we're looking at the inflation timeline, and when Joe Biden became president, the consumer price index was at 1.4%. Then he signed in the COVID relief package and sent inflation to 2.6%. Then in July, the Democrats were pushing that $5 trillion reconciliation package. They said it was $3.9 trillion, but it was full of gimmicks. The infrastructure package happened in November 21. That took the inflation rate to 6.8%. And then, of course, here we are after the Ukraine war at 8.3%. But look, Senator, you know there are things that cost much more than 8% year over year. Eggs, for example, the price of eggs is up 22% year over year. The price of an airline ticket's up 33% year over year. Meat, fish, etc., up 18, 17%. You are also worried about potential blackouts this summer. Tell me about that. What do you think will happen this summer?
Yeah, we're going to have power outages all across the country, and specifically California is going to be hit the worst. And, you know, the president, once again, has been advised of this, but he is missing it just like he did with the baby formula shortages. We're going to have blackouts. We're going to have higher costs. People are going to be paying more for spotty service. Look, if he wants you to buy an electric car, I'd say you'd better buy an electric generator if you could do and afford that, because his focus on wind and solar, those are good, but it's not always there when you need it. He said we need more energy transmission lines. I say we need more energy to transmit along those lines. But his attacks in terms of regulations and taxes on oil and gas and coal are making us have less reliable energy in this country. And what we're seeing with these blackouts this summer is the price people are going to have to pay, specifically in California, for signing up for the Green New Deal.
Well, it's very disturbing that they're continuing to push more spending, knowing that this is what got us here in the first place, to 40-year highs in inflation. Chuck Schumer is still trying to negotiate with Joe Manchin to try to do a reconciliation package. Isn't that right?
He's trying to do that, and with Kyrsten Sinema, because they need 51 votes. There aren't any Republicans that are going to vote for this, but that is their cornerstone of their economic policy. Raise taxes, spend more government money, which is the taxpayers' money, which is going to add to the debt and take us away from the economic sanity that we need to bring back to this country that we've lost under this president and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer.
Senator, you're doing all that you can in the face of a lot of issues. You just got back from Ukraine, and I know you talked about food security as well, with Ukraine being 10% of the breadbasket for wheat. So thank you for doing that, Senator. Good to see you, and we will talk soon. We'll be watching all of the developments. Senator John Barrasso this morning in Wyoming. Thank you, sir.